Answer the following. There are 5 questions on the screen. Can you remember the answers to these questions from our previous lesson based on the role of ATP? Pause the video and try and answer as many questions as possible. So a bit of a recap from last lesson. Have a look at this process. Can you remember the exact process and how it all flows? So we've got adenosine triphosphate, which is then broken down by ATPase and hydrolysis, creating energy, okay, through breaking that final bond, resulting in an unattached phosphate molecule. And this is called an exothermic reaction because energy is exiting. Okay, so we've got 1 to 4 seconds worth of energy created by breaking that bond. So today we are looking at the left-hand side of this process now. We covered the right-hand side, eventually left with ADP in that floating or unattached phosphate molecule. Now we're going to look at how we resynthesize energy on this left-hand side here. Okay. So we are now looking at these following learning outcomes. Still learning aim A, responses of the energy systems, but now we're specifically looking at the first energy system, the ATP PC system, otherwise known as the adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine system. A bit of a mouthful, hence the abbreviations. Okay, how it provides energy, what activities do we use this system during, how much energy it gives us, so the duration, how much energy is created, and the recovery time of the system. So like I mentioned in previous lessons or videos, our muscles have 1 to 4 seconds worth of ATP stored in them for muscular contraction. That leaves us with ADP left in our muscles. Okay, so in order to continue exercise, we've got to convert ADP back into ATP or resynthesize. Okay, so there are 3 energy systems that regenerate this ATP: the ATP PC, the lactate, and the aerobic. We're specifically looking at this ATP PC system first. So we have resynthesis here of ATP using the ATP PC system. Okay, so phosphocreatine is also known as creatine phosphate, so you might see that online if you are Googling these systems. I would recommend just following my slides. Okay, and it's an organic molecule that quickly supplies energy in the muscle. Our currency. Remember, we talked about ATP being our currency. So ATP within the muscle cells is used up very quickly for 1 to 4 seconds, and therefore it's got to be resynthesized immediately. So depleted ATP stores trigger the release of creatine kinase, now the enzyme creatine kinase, which causes this PC molecule to be broken down anaerobically. Okay, so the resynthesis of ATP is done through joining the ADP and a single phosphate molecule, that final bond's being rebuilt, resynthesized, okay, through the energy system. So that donation from one of the 3 energy systems. So for ATP to be resynthesized, an endothermic reaction has to occur. That's that chemical reaction which absorbs energy. How do we resynthesize in the ATP PC system then? So it's a 4-stage process. Okay, so the first stage, ATP requires resynthesizing, like I said, because we've got ADP, it's got to be turned into ATP for energy. We are then left, if we've got this floating, this unattached phosphate molecule, we can break that down into creatine phosphate, okay, and that's present in the muscle cell. Creatine phosphate in a 3rd stage is broken down to provide energy required, and that's through the enzyme creatine kinase. So we break that bond between creatine phosphate, and that creates energy. Okay, that means we're absorbing energy again. Okay, so we've got 1 PC molecule produced and 1 new ATP molecule produced in total. So we've then again got that phosphate molecule, it can reattach, it's resynthesized, and we have ATP to use for energy again. Okay? So the numbers that we need to know. We've got the ATPC system. It's anaerobic because it doesn't rely on the presence of oxygen. And the PC is rapidly available for contractions of high power, such as in 100 meters or in a short burst of intense activity during a longer game, e.g., a break in basketball. It could be a goalkeeper trying to make a save or a quick sprint within rugby. Okay, so that enables the muscles to produce explosive power. So the only issue with this system is that there's only enough energy, only enough PC or ATP to last for up to 8 to 10 seconds. And it can only be replenished when the intensity of the activity is submaximal. So for example, if you were still running for a longer period of time, you can't recreate this energy using the ATP PC system. You would have to then use one of the other two systems. So to be clear, the duration of this system, the ATP PC system, is up to 8 to 10 seconds. If we look here, we've got the ATP PC system. Take a look at our graph. The concentration of ATP is on the left-hand side and the timing on the x-axis. Okay, so if we look, the production peaks between 3 and 5 seconds, and that can be shown on a graph similar to this one below. Okay, for every one molecule of PC broken down, there's enough energy to create one molecule of ATP. So this energy system has a yield of 1 ATP. So top tip, yield means that's how much energy, how much ATP it creates. And the answer is 1 for this particular system. This is not a very efficient system, okay, but it does have the advantage of not producing any byproducts, and its use is important in delaying the onset of the lactic acid system or the lactate system. Okay, so it lasts for 8 to 10 seconds, it peaks at 3 to 5 seconds, however, it only creates one molecule of ATP. So when we hit our 10 seconds, we've depleted all our energy again. So activity that lasts any longer than that will need to use a different system. So an important information to note is that this system takes time to recover, okay, especially because they're intense movements. So if we're doing a 10-second sprint, the ATP PC system takes 2 to 3 minutes to recover. So it's not great, okay, that's a long time to recover. So we've got to try and use other energy systems if activities last for any longer than 10 seconds. So there are advantages and disadvantages to this system. We've got energy is immediately available. That's a good advantage. It has a large power capacity, supplies large amounts of energy per second to keep supporting contraction. Fortunately, there are disadvantages. So because it's high intensity exercise, ATP can't be made at the same rates, and stores must be fully replenished to keep going at higher intensity. So we need to have a rest, or we need to rest to obviously complete any further activity. Okay, try and complete this table now then. So we've got the following components. Have a go and see if you can fill it in. So we should have the following. Check your notes, double check you've got all your numbers right, and then we should have completed the whole energy system. Finally, just check your knowledge here. See if you can answer these questions. If you can answer them fantastically, you're doing well, you're rock solid. If you're struggling, you might need to reread some notes and have a go a little bit further. If you've really not been able to answer anything, you must revise.